Instead of us choosing our politicians, they are trying throughout the United States to choose us. So that's exactly what happens with gerrymandering. We no longer pick our politicians, they pick who they want to vote for them. And that's exactly what gerrymandering is all about. I'll talk about that today. I'll talk a little bit about the origins, and I'll talk about, most importantly, what we're doing here is in terms of Social Security. Will gerrymandering affect your future Social Security check? I would argue no, if two things, we do two things. If we keep these two things in mind, they can gerrymander any way they want, left, right, up, down, whatever case. I'll show you some of the crazy gerrymandered maps here pretty soon, but they can do whatever they want. They can play what other political games they want, but it's not going to affect your Social Security check if we do these two things. Okay, and this is also a live Q&A. I already got a bunch of questions about all things Social Security, retirement, disability benefits, and I got a bunch of video questions that people sent in. I think I've got more video questions today than I've had since we started the video question things about a month ago. It hasn't been that long, but anyway. All right, so let's get exactly into what is gerrymandering. It's basically when politicians decide, hey, we want more power, and therefore we are going to draw the maps. So that's exactly what happened. Texas just changed their map. This has been going on for a long time. The entire thing about gerrymandering, it began in the early 1800s in Massachusetts. This guy named, his name was Gary, but they changed it to Gerry. Gerrymandering. So it was named after this one guy in Massachusetts in the 1800s, and the district that he drew in order, so he pulled out a map and he kind of pulled his pencil out there and he says, well, these people will vote for me, so this is my district. These people will vote for me, this is my district. These people will vote for me, this is my district, and all that other stuff in between. I don't care about that. That's a whole different district because they won't vote for him anyway. So he just basically picked his voters, and the people at the time says, your map looks like a salamander, and therefore we get gerrymander. So that's how those two things actually should be. Gerrymander. I think his name was actually pronounced Gary, but anyway, we'll go with gerrymandering. So this is the craziness that we have. We no longer pick our politicians in a lot of groups, in a lot of areas. Maryland, look at that map. It's just crazy. Texas, unbelievable. Like for instance, let's see, Houston here, out, downtown Houston and in the inner cities of Houston there, yeah, whoever has this political thing is like, yeah, we don't want anything to do with these people. Let's pick the suburbs out here. These guys will vote for me. These guys will vote for me. Okay, so that's how the whole gerrymandering thing, it works. It's getting worse and worse and worse. But in terms of Social Security, here's the issue with Social Security. I don't care what map you draw for Social Security. I don't care what group they are, young, old, white, black, rich, poor, whatever the case may be. Across the board, people support Social Security and Medicare across the board. So it doesn't matter what type of map you try to draw there to try to, pick your voters, whether it's in here or out there in the red or whatever the case may be, doesn't matter. Polls have shown that people support Social Security, Democrats, Republicans, independents. So maybe some on the other issues, gerrymandering just might work, but Social Security, Medicare, across all lines, people want Social Security to be protected. And right now we're at a crucial point because in 90 checks, your check is going to be cut by 23%. And there may be, one person out there, kind of like 4 or 5 dentists say you should brush your teeth type say. I'm not sure who that one dentist is, but there might be 1 or 2 people out there that, yeah, go ahead and cut my check. But the other 99% of people don't want their checks cut. So what we need to do is 2 things. Here's the key. They can't gerrymander. Gerrymandering for Social Security and Medicare doesn't matter. We're all support Social Security and Medicare. We want it to be stronger. We want it to be here. We paid for it for decades. We want to get it when we're supposed to get it. But 2 things have to be met. One is that we have to come together and realize that we all support Social Security. We have a tendency, politicians have a tendency, they've, been doing this for thousands of years, divide and conquer, separate us and have us attack each other. And if you ever read some of the comments, go in the comments on some of the videos I do, and that's what people do. They just attack each other and call each other names and stuff like that. And that's exactly what politicians want us to do. They don't want us to join together and mobilize, right? So that's one thing that we have to do, is come together and realize that we're all on the same page here. This is why we have the best community on the internet, on the social media, is because we are all in this together, and we all support, Social Security, and make sure it's going to be here for the long term, and make sure our checks don't get cut. And the second thing we have to do is stop believing all the BS that politicians have been feeding us for decades. It's their failure. Well, I guess it's our failure too, because we failed to hold them accountable. The reason Social Security is get cut in the future is not because it was given to, undocumented immigrants or some foreign country. It wasn't stolen and all this other kind of BS that politicians have been telling us for 40 years that proven to not be correct. I've done many, many videos that show that. Is there fraud, waste, and abuse of Social Security? Of course there is. There's fraud, waste, and abuse in every government agency, in every company, in every entity that ever existed in the history of the world. There's been some level of fraud, waste, and abuse. But you shouldn't take that type of thing to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's exactly what politicians want us to do, rather than focusing on the important issue of getting Social Security solvent to make sure those cuts aren't happening. They just, hey, look over there, magic trick. Look at those people receiving benefits that are not supposed to receive benefits. Look at this over there. I've been looking for the trust fund for decades, and I still haven't found where it is. Well, you know where the trust fund is? All you have to do is look at the Social Security Trustees report that just came out, and it tells you, this is the report that just came out about a month ago, and it tells you where the trust fund is. There it is right there, $2.5 trillion in reserves. There it is. You found it. So all those politicians are saying, yeah, it was stolen. I'm looking for it. There, I found it for you. It took all of 2 seconds. So the trustees do a report every year, and they tell you exactly, hey, there was 2.6 trillion at the beginning of the year. We paid a whole bunch out. We also got some in interest and taxation of benefits and all this. And then we paid some out. And after all of that, $103 billion was taken from the trust fund. And now it's 2.5 trillion. So if you're receiving a Social Security check, probably about 8 or 9% of your Social Security check comes from the trust fund. So if a politician says, the trust fund was stolen and I'm looking for it, and don't worry about it, as soon as I find it, everything will be okay, you just hold up your Social Security check and say, hey, I found it right here. Okay, now stop the BS, and what are you actually going to do to fix it? So that's the issue right there. We need to come together and stop harassing each other, and we need to come together and make sure we don't fall for the tricks. Okay, so there's my 2 cents on getting Social Security, make sure it's solvent. And let's get into some questions, because we got tons of questions. A lot of people need help. I noticed someone's daughter had an overpayment. Anybody that has an overpayment, make sure you fight it. There are certain, if you go onto my website, I've got it all detailed there, mygovexpert.com. You click on the little overpayments, and then it tells you exactly, anytime you get an overpayment, please, 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 if you disagree with it, you fight it. Elon Musk and Doge, when they came in, they made a whole bunch of changes to the overpayment. I've got them all detailed there. But you've got opportunity to fight it. And it tells you exactly here what you need. The SSA 561, request for reconsideration, request for waiver. It goes into all the detail. I've done a bunch of videos on overpayments, but anything with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, I don't care what it is. If they make a decision and you disagree with it, fight it. And all of the ways to fight that are on my website, mygovexpert.com. And make sure you go in there and do what you got to do. Okay, let's see what we got here. Retired grip. Oh, what kind of movies did you work on? After trial work period, explain the 3-month grace period in EPE when going over SGA limit. Would you advise against it? Yes. So with the trial work period, you have 9 months where you can earn as much as you want. Okay, you can earn $1 billion a month while you're collecting Social Security disability insurance. because everybody wants you to go back to work. If you're able to go back to work, perfect. It's good for you, good for the trust fund, good for taxation because you pay taxes. Everybody likes when you pay taxes. So try to go back to work. And again, on my website, I've got all that information there about you click on the little tab that says disability, and it has working while receiving benefits. It's very, very complicated. That's one of the reasons a lot of people get overpaid. Social Security has it has about a 1%, a little bit less than a 1% error rate in terms of payments. So 99% of the money that Social Security pays, this has been proven out from audit to audit, audit to audit. When I ran my office, we were audited several times, and we flying colors every single time. Department of Defense, not so much, except for the Marine Corps. Marine Corps did well this last time. But about less than 1% are incorrect error payments, either an overpayment or underpayment. And in terms of disability, yes, there is fraud. But from my personal experience, my humble experience doing this millions of times, the overpayments where people get paid incorrectly on disability is not fraud. It's not being able to understand exactly what you're asking, stuff like that. What's the difference between a trial work period? What's the trigger month for a trial work period? Why is that different than the substantial gainful activity? That's one of the big reasons is people think, substantial gainful activity is the same as a trial work period trigger month. And if you don't know what I'm saying, then you're probably not receiving Social Security disability insurance. And even if you are, you might not know, understand. And that's the whole point, is it is extremely difficult, and therefore people get overpaid, not because they, intentionally do it. It's just the entire system is complicated. It is complicated. If you look at it, there's a rhyme to the reason. It's just hard to understand. There's a rhyme to the reason. A reason to the rhyme. Anyway, but I've got a PDF there that goes into details on the trial work period. Super long story short, I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but I probably would, I would advise against, there is kind of gray area period there. Because once you get out of your trial work period, once that 9 months is over, then you go into the extended period of eligibility, and any month over substantial gainful activity, which is the $1,620, then they're not supposed to pay you. So they do kind of have a gray area there. But I would stay under the 1620, and I wouldn't go up to exactly 1620, because what happens is when you make exactly, 1620 or 1619, that kind of little red flag, and it says, oh, this person knows exactly, the border, the line, and they're, working right up to it. If this person tried just a tad bit harder, they'd probably go over. So they might not be disabled anymore. So let's check it out. So that starts a red flag. So just to be on the safe side, I would stay under, about $100 or something like that, just to be on the safe side. Republican Party is coming for people voting. Yeah, it's been both sides. There's, one particular party that's been worse, and this is, a reaction. And so, that's, but as I always say, the reason Social Security, we're going to get cuts in a few years, is it's not left, right, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. It's all of them. If they had done their job, then we wouldn't get 23% cuts in a few years, but they didn't. So one party maybe have tried, but they didn't try hard enough. So Utah is really gerrymandered. Oh, yeah. Gerrymandering looks like a lot of BS. Yes, 100%. Looks like a Rorschach fix. Yes, it does. Yes. What do you see? And it's interesting, if you look at the new Texas map, I had a picture of it, but I wasn't sure whether it's 100% accurate, but it looks like it was a finger. When I was a kid, it was called cheating. Yes, definitely should be illegal. Yeah, they try to make it illegal, and it's probably not going to happen on a national basis to make it illegal, because the Supreme Court is, anyway. But elections are chosen like that by states. It's in the Constitution that the states have, those type of, jurisdiction over elections, and mapping and all the rest of it. So what you can do is in your particular state, you move, you mobilize, and you put it in the state constitution that no, we're not going to be gerrymandered. We are going to make everybody representation equal. Yeah, so each group and everything. So you just need to move locally in your particular state and get it going. And speaking of, yeah, my new platform where we're going to be mobilizing for Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps and all that kind of stuff that's coming out here soonish. We maybe will add a section on gerrymandering because none of that matters if, you know, so, all right. So a sad time for democracy. Yes, that is a fact. Dr. Ware, you get a lot of people on YouTube talking bad about you because they said you don't know nothing about SSI and SSDI. Okay, all right. Yeah, I've only done it a few million times, taken hundreds of thousands of Social Security disability insurance claims, SSI claims, helped millions of people out with all of those. So other than that, yeah, they're probably right. All right. But yeah, what are you going to do with the keyboard warriors? Yeah, it just, so I like the fact that they're involved. I like the fact they're involved. So that's always a good thing. So yeah, they could be watching cat videos, but they decided to get politically involved and they just need to be, you know, remove the cap, make the billionaires pay their fair share now. Yep, that is one of the main thing that's going to stop the cuts, but we need to mobilize. Susan, I just retired at 66, will be 67 to December 24th. Can I also draw my late husband's SSI? I was an SSDI. He was retired when he passed. Okay. So I was on SSDI. So you were on SSDI at one time. Did you get off it and get on regular retirement benefits, or you realize that you are going to be kicked off of SSDI pretty soon once you hit your full retirement age? But anyway, but he passed. You can 100% file for benefits as a surviving spouse, widower. The Social Security calls it a surviving spouse benefit. And if it's higher, okay, here's a trick a lot of people don't know about. Since you're going to be turning full retirement age soon, if you are on benefits on your own record, disability, retirement, whatever the case may be, and you're eligible for survivor benefits, whether they're the same or more or whatever, you need to make this decision. But what you can do is you can switch to survivor benefits and suspend your benefits on your own record just before you hit your full retirement age. It's called voluntary delayed retirement credits. And what happens is, so you switch to surviving spouse benefits, even if it's a little bit less, you know, it'd be nice if it was more, but even if it's a little bit less, you say, well, I'll get a little bit less every month, but your benefits on your own record will continue to increase because delayed retirement credits, those you get after when you delay your benefits after your full retirement age. And a lot of people don't know they can actually, even if they're receiving benefits, they can suspend it just before they hit their full retirement age, start those voluntary delayed retirement credits, and your benefit will continue to go up until you're 70 years old. And then switch from survivor benefits to benefits on your own record, and it'll be 24% more than it is now. So a lot of people don't know that. And so, yeah, you need to play around with the numbers and see whether that is best for you. But yes, you can collect survivor benefits. If you're going to continue benefits on your own record, then the survivor benefits just have to be more. Social Security always gives you the higher benefit amount. When the Social Security Trust Fund is depleted, that's when our Social Security payments will be 23% reduced unless Congress acts. That is a fact. That is correct. So what it basically is this much comes in. I think I've got a graph, so I stop using my hands all the time. So the blue line there is how much is coming in every month from people paying their FICA taxes. And then the top line is how much is going out. So there's a big gap there. And right now, the gap is being covered by the trust fund, just like anything else. If your house, all your household expenses are $1,200 a month, and you only got $1,000 coming in, you got a $200 gap every month. What do? You you go to your savings and you pull $200 every month out of your savings. Well, just like your trust fund is just like your savings. Your savings, if you're like everybody else, it's not going to stay forever, right? Eventually your savings are going to run out and you're only going to have $1,000 a month. That's exactly what happens. So by law, when Social Security doesn't have that trust fund anymore, they can only pay out what they get in, and that's 23% less. So the whole thing about it was stolen and all that BS, again, they're just trying to distract us. Try cross-referencing certain statements Dr. Ed has made on the web. Everyone I've checked, he's been right. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, always cross-check. If I make a mistake, please, please, please. We used to say in the Marine Corps, I thought I made a mistake once, but I was mistaken, right? But anyway, yeah, I made obviously lots of mistakes, like, not starting Rogaine in time, and so it's too late now. So anyway, many people don't want Social Security and Medicare. It's too expensive. Yeah, not sure. Personally, it's too expensive. You paid in for it, you're getting it out. Medicare, the $185, I can see, some people, but yeah. People are going to video because they can't get written questions answered. Video calls take up way more time. Very few written ones are getting answers. You love videos, but others are not answered. Yeah, people like the videos, and we like turning the videos into short videos, and it gets more information out there and stuff. So yeah, I wish I had more time to answer more videos, or answer more questions. Epstein files, okay. Every place I ever worked had some people who were there just to hold the floor in place. I bet it hasn't changed. If you have to hurt people who are doing things right, that's not fixing anything. That's a fact. Yeah. People are struggling out there, and the only consolation they have is that there's people out there that they don't like. They want to struggle more, to hurt more. So they can't fix their own situation. You realize they are where they are. But if they see people that particularly don't look like them, and they don't like those people, if they see those people suffer more than themselves, then they feel better. So that's a psychological thing we just can't change, unfortunately. So, well, without a lot of effort. Husband and wife were married outside the U.S. They are both getting Social Security. Wondering if one of them passes away, would they need an American marriage certificate? Nope. No problem whatsoever. We used to get those all the time. If you have a marriage certificate, divorce decree, birth certificate from overseas, no problem whatsoever. Just have to make sure if Social Security wants to see those, you have to provide the originals, and don't translate it. Social Security has to translate it. You give the originals to Social Security, they make a copy, they have to make the copies, they certify it, and they give your originals back to you, and they are able to translate every language possible. I used to do all the Japanese translations for the West Coast for birth certificates and all that stuff. So, little thing I picked up in the Marine Corps. Gerrymander sets our borders for districts where minorities run against each other. Other leaves one seat for a minority to win rather than four minority. Yeah, it is yes, that is how a lot of gerrymandered districts are written. Is you've got based on the basis of color or the basis of income. So yeah, I don't want these poor people, so I will get the suburbs. Like Houston, there was a bunch of suburbs. So gerrymandering and redlining should be illegal. Yeah, redlining. Yeah, that was a terrible thing that happened for a long time. Banks used to redline. Says, yeah, we're not giving out home loans to these particular people in these particular areas. And generational wealth in the United States for the majority of people is built in their houses. And then when you can't get home loans because your area is redlined, that's hurts your generational issues. Always appeal. The first level reconsideration has the lowest approval rate at around 14%, while the administrative law judge hearing sees significantly higher rates, about 40 to 50%. You are correct. Yes, that is a fact. I'm not sure about exactly those numbers, but they sound right. It really depends on your particular case, but yes, the lower levels Because basically in the reconsideration, you're just sending it back to that particular office and another employee looks at it, but it's a Social Security employee and they have to kind of read the letter of the law. The administrative law judge can kind of read the intent and read between the lines a little bit. So the administrative law judges have a lot more flexibility, let's say. So that's why there's a lot of change there. So Donna, my sis won her SSDI in February. They not give her dollars yet. The most the law can get 7,200. She has 25 coming, but they won't release it because the lawyer never gave them a fee schedule. She does not have a fee. Okay, yeah. So lawyers can take what is it, up to 9,200, I think. But if she did this earlier, then probably under the earlier one, I think it was what, 7,800, 72, 70. Anyway, the lawyers get them to up the payments all the time, but up to 25% of back pay. So what happens is probably, yeah, February is way, way too long. She should have gotten her money by now, had that money released. But what happens is if this was an administrative law judge type thing, they have to write up the order and then they send it to kind of the local office, usually the regional office. But Elon Musk and Doge pretty much shut down all the regional offices. So therefore, her is probably just floating out there somewhere with nobody to work it. It's unfortunate. So I would consider contacting your politician and making it a congressional and get things done. So Philippine prepping got approved an initial application for SSDI over 100,000 back pay. Now I have to pay the taxes. Yes. So yes, there's always taxes, always taxes. So Jed Clampett. Okay. Beverly Hillbillies. Would it be cut to Social Security also fall back on the Social Security employees, knowing there are people getting arrested now that have been collecting on your dead parent? Yeah, there's that one person in Houston. So yeah, it happens. But people take those unusual. It made news, and rightly so. It's like a plane. When a plane goes down, they just talk about that plane. But they don't realize there's, been thousands of planes that have been flying around, for the rest of the year. But that one plane, and we're still talking about it, same type of thing. That's human nature. But politicians use that to do exactly to distract and say, oh, yeah, Social Security, it's it. But did you hear that one guy? And they caught him. He has to make restitution. What about that one guy that stole all the Social Security money from his employees in Florida? Oh, yeah, that's right. He was pardoned by the president. Yes. So we have to cover his, $4.8 million that he stole. So yeah, there's that. So that we lost a lot more money on that presidential pardon than that guy in Houston. But politicians won't focus on that because that's not what they're looking to distract you with. So Congress doesn't care at all, hasn't changed in 50 years. Yeah. There's some politicians that are out there that are pretty good. They're trying to do stuff. So let's see. When the cuts to, okay, I already answered that one. What's good for the goose is good for Alpha Gander and everyone's tough. Yes. It is also in the interest of the tyrant to make his subjects poor. The people are so occupied with their daily tasks, they have no time for plotting. Aristotle. Oh, wow. Brought in Aristotle in here, the philosopher king. Well, that's not Plato, but yeah. Right. So Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Aristotle is, Alexander the Great student. So awesome. Wow. Got an awesome audience out there. Okay. You are the source. Thank you, and keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have been told that I can't earn even $1 on surviving spouse benefit. Is that true? That is not true. On surviving spouse benefits, if you're under your full retirement age, you can make $23,400. Anything over that, Social Security will hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. So you can work. So those limitations, the 23,400 is when you're under your full retirement age, receiving retirement benefits, spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, those type of benefits, then auxiliary child and care benefits, then you just have to stay under that amount. Okay, let's get into some video questions here. Let's see what we got.
Hello, Ed. Thank you for taking my question. My mother is 82 years old. She's on full Social Security. She's coming to a large sum of money. Will that affect her Social Security?
Okay, so she is on full Social Security after her full retirement age, so it's not a work type thing. And even if it was, she's coming into a lot of money, so it sounds like it's a some type of inheritance or something like that. So it's unearned income. Even if she was 63 years old and receiving Social Security benefits, if she got $1 million inheritance, that wouldn't affect her Social Security because it's not considered work. So there's that. So she's past her full retirement age, so that doesn't matter. The only way it would, there are two ways it would matter. Number one is if she's receiving SSI, supplemental security income, then SSI is a welfare needs-based program, low income, low resources. So if she's receiving SSI, supplemental security income, then it will affect it. And the only other way is Medicare IRMA, income related monthly adjustment amount. That's for high wage earners. So in 2 years, if she gets a lot of money, and if it's considered part of her modified adjusted gross income, which is line 11 of her tax returns, if it shows on there, then in 2 years, she will pay more for Part B and Part D for 1 year. So that's the only other change that might happen. So let's see what else we got
Turned
here.
67 or 66 and 10.
Hi, my name is Debbie. I'm going through a divorce after 20 years. I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm 61. I'll be 62. I've been on disability since 2021. I just wanted to know if I can claim on his Social Security yet or not. And I don't know what to do and how to do it. You're pretty knowledgeable.
Okay. All right. So, yes, but not yet, because you have to be 62, unless you're talking about survivor benefits. So, survivor benefits, you can start at 60 years old. A lot of people miss that and lose two years of benefits. But survivor benefits, you can start at 60, even if you're receiving Social Security disability insurance. It just has to be higher. One offsets the other. If not, then you can start seeing if if the calculations work and whether there's more money, then you can start just regular divorce spouse or spouse benefits at 62 years old. So now you can, even though you're 61, I'm not sure when you turn 62, but you can call Social Security and give them that person's information. If you know the social, perfect. If not, no big deal. Just tell them the person's name, their age, where they were born, is all that information as best as you know it, and they will find the Social Security number and they will tell you whether there's more money on that record. And then they'll say, yeah, there's more money. So about 3 months before you turn 62, come on down and to The Price is Right, and we will get you some more money. So that's how you do it. So I would call and just to kind of get some planning done. That way, you know if you are going to get some extra money. They won't tell you how much extra it will be. They're not supposed to on the phone or anything like that until you prove that you do have had a relationship with that person. So you'll have to prove, that you were married to the person. So you have to show the marriage and the divorce decree to prove that you were married for at least 10 years. And then they will give you the numbers, but they're just not going to give you the numbers because they don't know who you are. So. All right, let's see what else we have here.
Hi, Dr. Ed. I was the gal that called in a couple weeks ago with the Social Security Association, SSA, a rep had told me that I had been getting $166 taken off for some kind of VA benefit payment I was allegedly getting. I called back again and I asked the same question and asked about the supposed $166 that they were taking out of my check. And this representative says there's nothing on your record for $166 that the VA is taking off your. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay, yeah. So she left a message or something. I don't know. It was during one of these live Q&A. But I told her, yeah, that wouldn't show up on your record. I think she was receiving just regular Social Security benefits. That wouldn't show up on your record. If you receive an SSI and having other income, then it would affect your SSI. It would be offset on your SSI, dollar for dollar, basically. But any other types of benefit, no, it's not going to be on there. And she called up and found out that was correct. It wasn't on there whatsoever. So if you're short $167 from the VA, if you're supposed to get VA benefits, then yeah, it's not Social Security. It has to be from the VA or something, or you have some type of overpayment. And it's not sure why it's, you think it's, it might be VA. If it's an overpayment, that's an overpayment. That has nothing to do with any of that. So if it's a Social Security overpayment, but it doesn't, if they told you there's nothing being taken out, so I don't think there's anything being taken out. So it sounds like it's just a VA issue. You need to contact the VA and find out why they're withholding that 167. So.
Hi. So I was watching one of your videos and I talked to Social Security recently, and I was considering taking Social Security at 62 for a short time and then canceling it, or whatever that proper word is. But they didn't say, because I asked them what you said, which is recalculate my payment for when I do, whether it's 64, 65, whatever. They said there's no recalculation, that I have to pay back everything they gave me. So if I take it for 2 months and then, turn it off, refile it, we'll just call it 67, I have to pay them back the amount of money they gave me. They won't recalculate it.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about two different things here. Okay, so how this works, there's 3 ways to essentially suspend, stop your benefits. So you're talking withdrawal. It's called withdrawal. So you file an application, then you change your mind, and within 12 months, you can withdraw the application like it never happened. But because it never happened, that means you shouldn't receive that money. So you have to pay all that money back. And so it never happened. It's not going to affect your benefit amount. Nothing has to be recalculated because you didn't receive anything, technically. Okay. All right. So what you're talking about, the calculation, the recalculation is ARF, the adjusted reduction factor. So let's say you go ahead and file for your Social Security benefits, you start getting your benefits, and then you get it 30 months early. But after 12 months or something, let's make it easy. After 15 months, you change your mind and you decide to go back to work. And you work over the annual earnings limit, and then Social Security suspends your checks, okay, for the rest of the time. So you got 15 checks, but you didn't get the other 15. But your benefit amount, your monthly benefit amount, was reduced by 30 months, because every month you take your Social Security benefits early, it's reduced by that 1 month. So if you only take 15 checks, once you hit your full retirement age and restart your benefits, then Social Security restarts your benefits, and they're not going to say, hey, we're going to restart your benefits and reduce you by 30 months, because people will say, wait a second, I didn't receive 30 months. Oh yeah, that's right. So, and this is all automatic. You don't have to make that argument because it's automatic. When you restart your benefits, the computer system automatically looks at there and says, oh, we're going to send you a check, but this check is reduced by 30 months. You didn't receive it by 30 months. You only received 15. So we are going to recalculate it and reduce it by 15 months. And then from now on, the rest of your life, your benefit amount is going to be reduced by that 15 months, not 30 months. So that's automatic. And then the third way to essentially suspend your benefits is the one I talked about earlier, the voluntary delayed retirement credits.
My wife just retired a couple of months ago, school teacher. And she also started her Social Security at age 63. And my question is, in determining the amount of money that she can receive each month or annually, would they count for retirement pension from the school?
No, No. So that is unearned income. It's obviously earned, but it was earned in a prior period. So that would not count. On my website again, you go into retirement, Social Security retirement, and you click on the working and benefits, and it gives you all that. And I've even got a cool little calculator there. And it tells you the difference between, what counts as earnings and this one, income that does not count. So these are some of the things that are not counted. So this one, lottery and gambling winnings. Lottery, yes. Gambling, if you're a professional gambler, I need to add that just like in real rental income, unless you're a real estate professional. If you're a professional gambler and that's your job is to gamble, then that's your job and therefore it's earned income, But if it just, you walk by the slot machine, put a quarter in and you win $1 billion, then that's not counted because you're not a professional gambler. So, but in terms of Social Security, I'm sure the IRS will want to talk to you, but that's a whole different issue. So I think we have one last question.
Hi, Ed. I currently am on Social Security disability and was thinking about renting part of my home out to help me pay my mortgage easier. Am I able to do that and not lose any of my Social Security benefits?
Okay, same type of situation. If you're receiving just SSI, Supplemental Security Income, the welfare-based program, then any income obviously affects that. But if you're receiving retirement benefits, SSDI, spouse benefits, to surviving spouse benefits, then no. Again, unless you start an Airbnb business, but just loaning out a room, no. It's not considered earned income, so you are good. Bess Smith said, with the new administration, there will be an increase of CDRs. I think they haven't gotten to that yet, though. I haven't seen anything come in. I know during the first Trump administration, there was an attempt to essentially, do that, increase CDRs to get more people off of disability. But it doesn't look as though they're focusing on kicking people off Medicaid and making it more difficult for Medicare and everything. But no CDR, no expanded number of CDRs. CDRs are separately funded by Congress, and how do you increase CDRs? Is you give Social Security Administration more money specifically for CDRs. There's a separate allocation for CDRs every year. So. Angela, I'm an Australian. I was married to an American. I received an email from Social Security to an email they don't have. I live in Australia. Is it a scam? Any email like that you receive, I would just consider it a scam. If it's an email that says, "Hey, we've got a notice for you. Click this button to get into your My Social Security account," that might be a legit, but I still wouldn't click the button. It sometimes they're rather than sending out snail mail, they're going electronic and sending people email, and it just basically says, hey, we sent you something, go into your Social Security account. So go into ssa.gov, don't press anything in the email, go to ssa.gov, and then go to your My Social Security account, and if there's any notice in there, then there will be a notice in there. So Kevin, if on SSDI and have payee service, can I go to Philippines for vacation for 6 months to a year at 48? Yeah, absolutely. No effect whatsoever. SSDI, if you're a U.S. citizen particularly, you live anywhere in the world. Just make sure you keep in touch with your mail. Because if they do send you a CDR or something like that and you don't respond, then they will cut you off. True, Bella, but the closer you are to FAR, the less likely that they'll call you in. If you get the paper from them, just fill it out because odds are they'll just pass you over. Okay, yeah, you're talking about a CDR? Yep, continuing disability review. That is correct. Susan, thank you for answering my question. Social Security never told me that when I called them after my late husband passed. They said his was less and I was better off staying on my SSDI. You're welcome. Here's one thing. Doesn't sound like it applies to you, but when people call Social Security and see if they're eligible for benefits under a divorced spouse or something, or a spouse, and that person is still out there alive and kicking, the answer you get is based on that day, that month. So, and remember, spouse benefits, divorce spouse benefits, independently entitled divorce spouse benefits, you get up to 50%. So your benefit amount has to be less than 50% of that other person's benefit amount. So what we see happening is a lot of people call, or they, whatever, it says, I want to see if I'm eligible for benefits on my, ex-spouse or whatever. And they're told no. And that's accurate, possibly at that particular time, but things change. Your ex-spouse, for instance, may start working more and paying more into Social Security, and their benefit amount increased, and therefore it's twice yours. Or that person passes away, and then everything changes there. Instead of up to 50%, you can get up to 100%. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there walking around, unfortunately, that have more money waiting for them, but they just don't know. So please press like, subscribe, share, and all that kind of good stuff. So doesn't matter what political party, they're both on the same page. It's obvious to me. Yeah, I mean, that's there's there's some good politicians out there, but with Citizens United, particularly House of Representatives, as soon as they are elected to office, they have to go out the next day and start making money for the next time, and it's all about getting those donors. It's all about the primaries and stuff, and yeah, we built a terrible system. So, but as Winston Churchill says, democracy is the worst system in the world, except for all the others, right? Where do I report someone rage baiting, bullying me that he paid his Social Security so I could get my retirement? Yeah, I'm not sure that he paid his Social Security so I could get my retirement. Yeah, not sure. Say just ignore him. So look what's happening to Medicaid and food stamps. Yeah, and people don't realize that it's not only Medicaid, it's going to affect everybody. Because when you kick that many people off of health insurance, and it's not as though now those people are cured from getting sick and getting injured or something like that. They will still get sick and get injured, but now they will go to the hospital and they don't have health insurance, so they're not going to be able to pay for that health insurance, and therefore everybody's going to start charging more, and that's going to go to us. So it's the dumbest possible way to pay for healthcare. So there's two ways to pay for healthcare for people. Everybody is just go ahead and bite the bullet and pay for it at 10% preventive care, or don't and wait for them to go to the emergency room and pay 10 times as much. And we have chosen, we want to pay 10 times as much because we want to stick it to the other guys we don't like. So yeah, it's crazy. So it's all last stratification more than one's, okay, stratification. Let's see, elevate space, thank you. Both political parties failed us on Social Security, but today in this moment with what's going on, we can't sit thinking neither party will help. We need to focus on defeating the current administration, then focusing on change. Yeah, we need to focus on coming together and holding their feet to the fire, and because we all support not getting our checks cut, unless you're that fifth dentist, I guess. But yeah, that's the trick, is to just go out there and mobilize and try to get this thing changed. But you have, it's a Sisyphean task, is pushing that boulder up the hill. But because we're dealing with billions of dollars, Elon Musk put $250 million into the election. I mean, there's what, a few thousand people watching us right now. Yeah, we're not gonna move the needle at all against something like that. But if there's 70 million people receiving Social Security benefits, and so that's the trick. Strength in numbers. Pamela, I am on Social Security and my husband passed away. I'm a surviving widow. I am wondering, I am 66, is going to be different when I get older. Let's see here. You're on Social Security, husband passed away. So you're a surviving spouse, surviving widow, same thing. When you get 66, no, it's not going to change. But remember to make sure you check to see if your benefits on your own record have increased more than your surviving spouse benefits. So that's definitely one thing you need to check. Because if you didn't touch your benefits on your own record, your benefits are going to continue to increase, and maybe your benefits are going to be higher. If so, then you just switch over to benefits on your own record. So hospitals turn you away with no insurance. Yeah, they're not supposed to. No, they're not supposed to. They are supposed to essentially triage you. So if you come in there, the heart attack, they're not going to throw you out and, well, they're not going to throw you out in the parking lot. If you go in there with a, gunshot wound or whatever the case may be, they're supposed to take care of you, stabilize you, and then they just might throw you out. And then, yeah. What happened to smash the cap? Yeah, it's, I just did a video a few weeks ago or a few days ago about Bernie Sanders. He introduced the Social Security Expansion Act, which smashes the cap. So it is a bill, but it's only a lonely bill until y'all get behind it and say, let's make it a law. So it has to pass through and let gerrymandering do what they do. Medicare increased costs, less coverage with cuts. That's one of the things that's really gonna, if you've got a Medicare Advantage plan, that's why my son and I reached out to Chapter to help y'all, 100% free, help you. They work in all 50 states, represent all the biggest companies out there. And so they look at all the plans, and all the plans, even if they are not contracted with a particular companies, they will look at those plans and say, hey, wait, in this particular area, you're better with another plan, so just call them directly. And they have an after-service customer service care. But you've probably already seen it. There's a major Medicare Advantage plan, who shall be nameless. You know who it is. That said they're going to cancel 600,000 PPO, Medicare Advantage PPO plan. So if you have a PPO plan, you need to watch your mail. You need to watch your mail. And then there's another one that said they're going to cancel a whole bunch of PPO plans. So this is the trend. And even if they don't, because PPO plans cost these Medicare Advantage plans more money. Because, with an HMO, they contract with doctors and, hospitals and clinics and stuff like that. And they negotiate and, pay, terrible, allegedly. And so that's how they reduce costs, is they contract. And therefore you have to go to those networks. With a PPO, you can go, there's a preferred network, but you can go outside that network. You just get charged extra. So if you have a PPO pretty much anywhere in the country, you really, 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 really need to check, because when they start canceling plans like that, that's one thing. But even the ones that they have left over, the PPOs that they have left over, in order to cut costs, they are going to raise prices probably on those to save money. So if you have a PPO plan anywhere in the country, you definitely need to watch the mail. If you get that ANOC, the annual notice of change, you better go through it like a fine-tooth comb and say, okay, this year if I go to the hospital, it's $100 a night. Next year, it's $300 a night. If I go to a specialist this year, it's $35. If I go to a specialist next year, it's $75. So you need to check through that. So if you want help, you can reach out to Chapter and reach out to me anytime. And say, hey, hook me up. I'm waiting for the ANOC. But in the meantime, and if you get one of those denial letters, if you get your annual notice of change says they are going to cancel your particular plan, that's a golden ticket for you to get a Medicare supplement plan. So you want to check that out and see if that's right for you. It might not be right for you for a budget reason, but at least check it out. And you have a guaranteed issue. Keep that letter. Make sure you keep that letter, because it says on there that because we're canceling your plan, you have a guaranteed issue to get a Medicare supplement without any health underwriting. So please make sure you do that. And then you can reach out to Chapter and say, hey, I need your help. You can start changing your plan October 15th, but you've got until December 7th. The first week in October, or the first 10 days of October 15th to 20th, 2025 is going to be crazy. But you've got until December 7th. So to make that change. And then the change will actually take effect January 1st. So the Americans pay the most for healthcare in the world, and our healthcare is nothing to brag about. It's very poor. Yeah, if you got money, it's one of the best systems in the world. But the access, that's the issue. So smashing the cap gives us about 4 years. We are far past relying on just that. We need tax income earners that pay their monthly vet and pay FICA zero. Billionaires don't get paychecks. Yeah, a lot of those smash the cap ones also include that as well. They realize that, the people that make, $10 million don't get a paycheck. Most of them, they get capital gains and all this other kind of stuff. So a lot of the ones that are smashing the cap like that, they also include that provision. So absolutely. And also add another bin point. So those people that, get $10 million, make $10 million a year, aren't getting $1 million Social Security check because that's just the way that things are calculated. So let's see, do the doctor shortage, they're having a lot of nurse practitioners, people being people's primaries in my area. There's just not enough doctors. There's a shortage. That's going to get a lot worse too, because in the big, beautiful bill, they decided that they are going to restrict medical school debt. So if you're super, super smart but poor, then a lot of people are saying, well, I just can't afford medical school. You go to medical school and you take up you get the debt, and they say, well, it's an investment because I'll be a doctor or a surgeon or whatever, and then I'll be able to pay it back. But if people that are okay but have money, those are the ones that go into medical school. So there's going to be a lot of people that are really, really good that are not going to be able to go to medical school because the big, beautiful bill restricted that. And they're cutting back a lot of funding for residency. After you graduate medical school in the United States, you have to go to residency for a year or 2 or years, depending on what your specialty is. So you go to a resident, and most of those resident programs are supported by Medicare, and Medicare is going to be cut, and it looks like that's going to be a target. So we're going to have even a tougher time getting doctors. Yeah, so we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, both feet. Yeah. When you start Social Security in, say, a month of June and you're under FRA, you can only earn $19.50 per month for the rest of that year. That's correct. That's called the monthly earnings limit. If you're going over the $23,400, if you're under that, then it doesn't matter. Desmond, excellent work you are doing. I have used your website to correct the people who are my bosses when they're wrong. Do you have Medicare sales team? I would love to join it. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, Chapter, that's who we've partnered with, is Chapter, and you can reach out to them and see if, you can join their team. They've got quite a bit of training you have to go through, and I've nothing but good reviews on them. So we're going to keep using them. YouTube, as long as they're legal here, I believe they can collect. It's only the illegal immigrants who have no access. Correct. And that's another thing politicians, they say, undocumented immigrants are getting Social Security. No, you can't get Social Security benefits unless you prove that you're in this country legally. So politicians, we need to stop falling for their tricks. So getting worse and good luck figuring out how to itemize cost to make sure you don't get charged more. Okay. And that's another thing we're going to be doing, because is there fraud, waste, and abuse in Social Security and Medicare? And of course there is. Come on, every company, corporation, agency in the world has some level of fraud, waste, and abuse, particularly big ones. So I've got on my description, I've got the link for if you see Medicare abuse, that's going to be a big thing. We've got a certain amount of tax dollars, and that's a reality, even less now. So we need to make sure those tax dollars are being used effectively, efficiently, and not wasted. Big thing is, where the big money is being wasted is Medicare Advantage plans. They're upcoding. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan or Medicare plan or private insurance or anything like that, and you go to a hospital and get some type of surgery, check that bill. I know it's complicated, and most of the times we get a bill and it just says you owe nothing, and that's the only thing we're looking for, and it says you have to pay $0, and then we throw it away, right? And we forget about it. But go through there and, you know, just do a cursory look. I might have to, if there's, that's a good idea. If there's any medical billers out there that really know, come on to my channel. We will, let's give an instructional video on medical billing. So you can bring up some examples of saying, hey, here's some things that they kind of trick you with. And these are the nomenclatures. You bring up a Marine Corps term there. Here's the names that they use, and it's actually a trick to try to bill Medicare or the health insurance company more, which costs us more. So if you know anybody that's like a medical biller that wants to show up on camera and do a live, please, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, let's do it. I wish I had went with chapter because the plan I picked, they didn't explain nothing to me about Medicare. Yeah, that's one of the reasons we picked. And the great thing about picking chapter is, as I mentioned, the member success team. So a lot of places out there, they sign you up and they forget about you. And when you call them up and it's like, well, you know, yeah, just call Medicare, call your health insurance. But they have a Medicare success team. So if you need to find a new doctor, if you get some building you don't understand or something like that, they help you out. So that's one of the great things about that. So, all right, we are over an hour. So yes, I did miss a bunch of questions. I apologize, but I will be back again tomorrow, pretty much every day, and I'll keep answering questions. So make a video. Yes, I do love the videos. So anyway. But I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can. In the meantime, y'all take care, and please take care of each other.